Hey guys, it's Al from Altruistic Channel, and I wanted to address a little bit more on the journey that I had. And I couldn't really understand whether I was trying to relate on a personal aspect to it, and I couldn't quite understand how I was going to categorize it, but I just thought I'd go ahead and share what it's like to find your own path and how sometimes it just is a matter of faith. So, in the end, what ended up happening is that my journey was very dark. And though I don't stay in that space of believing like, oh, woe is me, life has been shit, I have had to kind of address it and speak the truth of what it was like. So, just to get into the construct of it, I've kind of just touched on the surface. So, let's get into the nitty gritty. So, when I was molested as a child, the thing that stands out to me wasn't so much the molestation as much as the guy's MO and what he did to lure young kids into his trust field was that he emulated the picture of Jesus from back in the day. Green V-neck shirt, long hair, kind of more of the 70s, early 80s picture of Jesus in the Catholic Church. And so because of that, I never trusted God again. And I never trusted spirituality as a whole, even though it was something burning innately that I was trying to find. I was seeking out that relationship at a 6 and 7 year old mindset without understanding the quantity or the quality of what I was looking for. And so it led me down a very dark path in one of that was mired with a lot of sacrifice on my part and having to kind of stay quiet. I didn't have a childhood after that, right? At 7, when you're robbed of your innocence, there's no going back. And so it led me down to looking into Judaism and looking into different faiths. And it eventually led me to Scientology. Now, I don't speak to that to the degree that most people would want me to. I'm not on the Leah Remini show for a reason. I do not empower that cult into any existence, so I speak of it very little. But I will speak to what it took away from me. So it took away my family. It took away my self-respect. It took away my belief in any structure of faith-based. I stopped thinking in magical thinking. I couldn't believe that I had any way out. And if I did have a way out, it would be at the cost of losing what I had left of my family. And by this point, it was down to me and my mom. So despite the fact that my mother and I had not really spent a lot of time, when we did spend time in the 2 years prior between New Orleans and Los Angeles, there was about 2 years where we were band together and it was just me and her. And that 2 years probably meant the most to me. But she let me go to the cult and I had to go and fight for myself at the age of 13. And I was robbed of any type of human decency, the ability to have a childhood or hope for a future. And I can see it even in my eyes now. It is blackened. There is no soul recollection for me there. There's no value to that period in my life. There's just sorrow, despair, the need for death, and the sacrifice of my soul. That's all that period is representative of. And as you can see, it doesn't hold power anymore. It just is an empty, hollow expression of what can happen on American soil to an American citizen left to their own devices. And in the end, as much as I loathe them and I wish them nothing but light and love and harmony for their path, because they're getting their due. The karmic debt is to be repaid. And God knows that they owe me quite a bit of money for the slave trade that I was part of at such a young age. But I don't empower them beyond that, because in the end, what it shows is who we are as beings, and that there are things that happen outside of our control that were within our control. Had I been spiritually aware at a younger age or had some structure there, maybe it would have gone differently, but I don't think it would have. Some journeys are so preset that the being or the soul having to encounter the experience has to go through that part of their journey in order to reach the outcome that is desired for their soul's purpose, right? So when I finally came back to reality, so to speak, I was in a place of loss. Like, it was just confusion, mad confusion. And I had lost so many years of my life to empty shells of expression and emotionless time periods where I just was loss after loss, death after death, despair after despair, no hope for the future, and death was the only thing I could pray for. And it takes a long time for a soul to recover from that long a period at such a young age. You know, the debt that you accrue for complete surrender to the death process. I mean, I wanted nothing more than to die, but I knew that suicide was, you could not do it. And I was still praying for death. And so when I got a dead like life, like where it's just emptiness and shadows and the darkest parts of humanity, I was surprised for a long time that God would not step in on my behalf. After that, I mean, it just felt like he hated me. And I started to spiral into a period of darkness the moment that my mother died. It was the last thing that kept me rooted into reality. And the pain of losing the one thing that kept me in that cult, that kept me putting up with that shit for so long, was the ultimate betrayal. And it took all of my might to get up every single day after that. But it is that journey that makes me so strong now. And it is that journey that you encounter where you think that you can't survive something that means the most to you when you get to your destination. So though you may see me in a place of sadness at the moment, it is the loss of time that I mourn and not the experience. And that is something that spirituality teaches you. So when the world turns in on itself, as it's doing right now, and you watch children come into schools and use semi-automatic weapons to annihilate the people who bully them, or you watch bipartisan bullshit start to play out because people are still arguing things that have already been determined, you learn to stand behind your truth, and you learn to rise above whatever it is you see before you. But it starts with you finding your spiritual center. And you have to look into yourself and deal with the shadow side of what you yourself have taken part of and what you valued. Because believe it or not, when it all comes tumbling down, you will still be standing. And you will have to live beyond that moment. So you can either do it from a spiritually inclined standpoint that helps you, or you can come behind the 8 ball and wait till it comes crashing down around you. Either way, the choice for humanity is here. The planet is dying. We are killing it. We are killing ourselves. And the choices are not getting any better. But if you can look at someone like me, who had no faith in humanity, and that humanity has never been there for me, but that I completely am giving my life focus to helping us in the spiritual nature of love and guidance, then that should tell you something about where we are, and it should kind of put your perspective in check. It's time for you to relate to other human beings and stop thinking so in I, me only ways, and start looking at the we story, the story of us, because that is where we're going to find the answers for our future. But I thought you should know a little bit more about what I've been through so that you can better understand what you have a choice in avoiding. That's it for Alan Altruistic Channel. I hope that made a little sense, and I hope it brought a little smile into your day somehow. Love and light to all of those out there.